should have jumped in that stock this morning. 330% I made this morning. That's the one Trump's supposed to be starting his social media platform, and he's merging with some company. It went nuts. Yeah. Bought a bunch of, I bought 4 shares of Bitcoin when it was around 30-something thousand, so I've done real well. I still got it. Yeah. I think it's at like 64 today, something like that. So it's still doing real well. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Did you going to Wes's thing this evening?
I'm trying to get over there.
Yeah, let him know. I couldn't make it this evening, but let him know that I did send him a donation too.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. You mind giving an invitation? All right, it is 6:30. This time we'll call our meeting to order. If you will, please stand for me. Councilman Cole's going to give our invocation.
Let's pray. Almighty God, thank you for bringing us together tonight to discuss the business of this town that we love. Help us to make wise decisions guided by you, and help us to serve the people that you have called us to serve one another, and help our town to move forward. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you will, please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you. It's going to be a little bit unusual. We have a 2-part meeting today. The first part will involve a public hearing, and I'm going to read that notice that was sent out in its entirety, and afterwards we'll entertain any questions or comments. The purpose of this hearing is to allow opportunity for the community to comment on rezoning application requests that have been received by council after being approved by the Town Planning Commission as matters of importance in economic development. Action will be taken by council to approve or disapprove these requests. The first property is located at 9 South Academy Street, bearing TMS number 245-191-7002, 0.40 acres. It is currently zoned R3, single family and duplex residential. The applicant is requesting to rezone this property to residential commercial to match the current RC zoning along Main Street, which he also owns, in anticipation of future commercial growth. At this time, we'll entertain any kind of comments from the public or questions regarding that first request that, again, it's been approved by the Planning Commission and been submitted by the property owner. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on that? Council members? Okay. Here now we'll move over to the second. The second property is located off of Brock Lane, bearing TMS number 245-000-8006. It's plus or minus 27 acres and is currently zoned multifamily residential, MFR. The applicant is requesting to rezone this to planned development classification, PD, to allow for single-family residential residences to be constructed. The PD classification encourages innovative and planning and site design that ensures natural resources and environmental protection, high-quality appearance, open space preservation, and the provision of amenities. That is the second one. Do we have any questions or comments regarding that second item. Again, they're asking to be rezoned from MFR to PD. Council? All right, here none, we'll move to the third one. The third property is located on Minor Street bearing TMS number 244-001-7001. It is 7.74 acres and is currently zoned multifamily residential and was once intended to be Palmetto Point subdivision. The current applicant is requesting to rezone this to R7 classification in order to complete the subdivision that was initially started in 2004 or 5 prior to adoption of these zoning ordinances in 2008. The current classification of MFR enacted in the zoning ordinance of 2008 requires the lot sizes to be 10,000 square foot or larger. With some of the former infrastructure previously installed and usable for medium lots, it would not work on larger lots, so the Planning Commission recommended the R7, which is 7,000 square foot lot sizes, to allow for the building of homes. Note that the old subdivision plan had lot sizes of 4,200 to 4,300 square foot. Do we have any public comment or any input on that particular section of our public hearing? Council?
Mayor, this would allow it would be 7,000 square foot lot sizes, is that correct?
That's correct. The original layout of Palmetto Point, under its previous owner, when it was originally, the infrastructure was placed in the ground, was 4,200 to 4,300 square foot. So this will be significantly bigger lots, but still not conforming to the current classification of MFR that was adopted in 2008, which is 10,000 square foot lots.
And MFR would allow for apartments and condos and type of thing, and R7 would just allow for single-family residences.
That's correct.
So I think that's another positive for this request.
Correct. And since you gave a little bit of an explanation on that one, if we don't have any more on that one, I'd like to go back to item number 2 on Brock Lane. I know we've got a couple folks here from Brock Lane that I recognize. What that zoning classification of PD will allow, that's actually property owned by the town of Williamston, so we want to be very careful in what goes into that location. So we've worked with a developer to make sure that we have a lot of green space in that particular subdivision. There'll be tons of green space. There'll be walking trails. There'll actually be a trailhead with, I think, around 20 to 30 parking places, so that you could actually park within that subdivision. And keep in mind, that'll be put in at that developer's expense as well. So it's a super nice area, but what that also does allows them, there's some unknowns on that property. There used to be a rock quarry back there. So if they go in and start digging, they've already done some geo work, preliminary geo work on there, and they're confident they can go through and build that subdivision currently as it is, but they may need to shift a home over 10 or 15 foot or something like that to accommodate for those rock formations that's possibly in there. Again, those would have to be approved through council. The site plan has to be approved through council. So that's what the plan development allows for. And we also have Chris Wallace here with Hunter Quinn Homes if he wants to add anything to that. Chris will actually be, his company will be the ones actually developing the property. Do you have anything you'd like to add to it, or is that?
I think you covered it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, here to answer any questions if anybody has.
Yeah. So we want good growth. We want growth, but we want good growth. We want quality growth. And I'm very confident that's what we're going to see there on Brock Lane. And for those of you who are in attendance from Brock Lane area, I think you'll be very pleased with what's proposed to go there. And if you haven't seen that yet, the preliminary proposed site plan, let me know after the meeting. I'll be happy to show that to you. All right. Do we have any other comments on the public hearing? At this time, we'll call our public hearing closed, and we'll enter regular session. Do we have anybody signed up for comment, public comment, Michelle? All right, council, if it pleases you gentlemen, we're short here today. We've got 2 council members out. Councilman Alexander's out on vacation with his family, and Council Lady Austin has a previous commitment. She will not be available for about 10 minutes, and so item 1 through 3, we're going to move those down to the bottom of the list. I think Councilman Cole will probably need to excuse himself from item 1 through 3, so therefore we wouldn't have a quorum here to be able to conduct the business that we need to conduct tonight. So with that said, we'll move right into item number 4. And let me rearrange my paperwork. And again, Council Lady Austin should be phoning in roughly the next 5 minutes, I would expect. Item number 4, we have second reading on an ordinance to allocate funding for indigent defense. We've covered that pretty substantially at our last meeting. It's a total of $4,547 will be allocated from the general fund to be paid to the Office of the 10th Circuit Public Defender. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept this on second reading.
So moved. I'm sorry.
Have a motion on the floor by Councilman Cole, second by Councilman Haygood. Any discussion on that?
Mayor, I'll just comment, I believe that this is the same amount that they have requested the last couple of years. I share, I think the mayor's concerned that this is kind of an unfunded mandate from the state. However, I believe that we have to do it to continue to operate our municipal court.
That is what I understand as well. I don't like it a whole lot, but, you know, we're kind of backed in a corner. We don't have a whole bunch of choice on it if we're going to continue to have a municipal court. So with that said, any other further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Let the record reflect we have none opposed. Item number 5, we have second reading on an ordinance to rezone property on South Academy Street. Again, that's was item number 1 in the public hearing we had a few minutes ago, but I'll read that in its entirety. Whereas the Town Council has adopted official zoning map of the Town of Williamston, revised January 2020, pursuant to the recommendations of the Planning Commission and in conformity with state law and the procedures outlined in the Code of Ordinances. And whereas the Planning Commission has recommended that the zoning map be amended to rezone a certain tract of property at 9 South Academy Street, Williamston, South Carolina, bearing TMS number 245-19-17-002 from R3 Single Family and Duplex Residential to RC Residential/Commercial. This time again, that's a recommendation from the Planning Commission as well as a request by the property owner. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept this on second.
So moved.
A motion on the floor by Councilman Cole,
Second.
a second by Councilman Haygood. Any discussion on that?
Mayor, briefly, I am in favor of this. I believe it will coincide with the zoning that's already in the area, and it's just basically adding an additional portion of property to the residential commercial district that is adjacent to property that's already zoned residential commercial, and hopefully this will lead to a commercial development. So I'm in favor of this ordinance.
I share your sentiments, and I think it's going to be great for the town once we all find out what potentially could go there. So we know it'll be commercial. So it's an exciting time to be here in Williamston, exciting time to see some of the growth that's happening. Again, we want growth. We want quality growth too. We don't want people just throwing stuff up. So I think we've done a pretty good job of planning for the future, and we're excited to see it finally coming to fruition. That being said, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any other discussion? Here none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Let the record reflect we have none opposed. Item number 6, we have second reading on an ordinance to rezone property on Minor Street. Again, this is the one we talked about, which was item number 3 on our public hearing. That's the former property that was initially developed in the early 2000s, and I'll read this in its entirety. Whereas Town Council has adopted the official zoning map of the Town of Williamston, revised January 2020, pursuant to the recommendation of the Planning Commission and in conformity with state law and the procedures outlined in the Code of Ordinances. And whereas the Planning Commission has recommended that the zoning map be amended to rezone a certain tract of property located off of Minor Street, Williamston, South Carolina, bearing TMS number 244-00-17-001 from multifamily residential zoning classification to R7 zoning classification. With that said, I'll have a motion on the floor by Councilman Haygood.
Second.
Have a second by Councilman Cole. Any discussion? I think we covered that one pretty good on the explanation as to why they're asking for that to be rezoned. If we don't have any further discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor? Let the record reflect we have none opposed. All right, in new business. Let me get to my new business stuff over here. We got a little bit of discussion on this stuff. Item number 7, we have my request to approve additional funding for roof replacement on the municipal building. And if y'all will indulge me for just a moment, I'll explain where we're at. Initially, council budgeted this budget cycle back in July, $200,000 to have the roof replaced on Town Hall. Okay, we felt pretty comfortable that could cover the cost of it. However, we actually hired a building envelope specialist. We had some pretty major issues at the police department and other areas other than just the main structure of Town Hall. We had a good bit of rain this last week. We've noticed several leaking spots, but it became a minor flood in here when we had 8 inches of rain last week. So we know that if we continue to ignore those problems will become exacerbated, and we'll end up with roof rot, and we end up with a much more expensive fix. When I got looking at the different types of structure and roof, that's way beyond my area of expertise, and so we're able to hire an engineer to actually come in and write the specifications, determine where the problems are and what level of priorities they are to fix it, and he was able to come through and give us a site assessment. In addition, we also had a public bid to replace the roof on Town Hall. In addition, we had an alternate to replace the roof on the police department. The police department currently has a flat roof with tar and gravel. And so that was alternate number 1. Alternate number 2 was the old cafeteria as well as the courts, the magistrate's court, and that was repairing. Those shingles are not very old. We've had that work done the last 5 years. However, there was some, the engineer determined there was some substandard work, or there was some issues with the work that needed attention as well. So he also added in an alternate number 2. That was bid opening took place on October the 5th. The base bids came in, and the low bid on it was a company by the name of Lloyd Roofing Company, but keep in mind, base bid was strictly Town Hall. It came in at $210,000. He was the apparent low bid on base bid. On the alternate, which was the police department, his bid was $191,313. Alternate number 2, which was the repairs on the existing structures that didn't need complete replacement but needed some repairs, was $11,163. So he would have been the apparent low bid if we were only going to go with the base bid. Upon further consultation with the engineering firm, the building envelope specialist that we hired, it was determined that we definitely have some major issues that need to be addressed at the police department as well. So the second low bidder on base bid was C.E. Bourne & Company, and when you tally up his base bid, the alternate number 1 and alternate number 2, which is what my proposal is, to accept all of them, he came in about $70,000 lower, roughly $70,000 lower than any of the rest, and that was C.E. Bourne & Company Incorporated, for a total cost base bid of $221,590, alternate number 1 of $145,000, and then alternate number 2 of $5,950, for a grand total of $372,540. So again, we budgeted $200,000 in June or July. The total it's going to take to do basically get this whole complex into the condition it needs to be in will end up being an additional $172,540. So my recommendation is going to be approve an additional $172,540 out of our fund balance. I keep in mind that as of today, we have approximately $2.1 million in fund balance, which, as the auditors, they made us keenly aware that that's a nice fund balance to have, and we want to make wise expenditures. But I'm afraid if we kick the can too long down the road, we're gonna have some major structural issues that are gonna be a lot more expensive to deal with long-term. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to approve an additional $172,540 for a grand total appropriated of $372,540 and award the contract to C.E. Bourne and Company Incorporated. And I make that in the form of a motion.
Will that require 2 readings?
Yes. For a budget amendment, we'll require 2 readings. Let me go ahead and add, let's get a second and then we'll talk a little bit more. I made the motion.
Okay, second.
Yes, second by Councilman Haygood. Further discussion? I did go ahead and send out a notice of intent to award. There were some legal guidelines we have to abide by once they are apparent low bid. We can't just ignore it until we decide to take action. So I went ahead and sent that upon approval by council. So that's what we're here for tonight. Any other discussion?
Mayor, my understanding, and Mayor may want to get clarification from the attorney, is that we could approve this and then do a budget amendment separately by ordinance. But that would be my understanding. But it's, that would be.
We could approve the contractual agreement with C.E. Bourne tonight and then do the budget amendment. All right, so would I need to withdraw my current motion on the floor to do, okay, we can go ahead and have first reading and then I would just add another, okay. All right, any other discussion?
Mayor, I have a question. Would this be one of the expenditures that could possibly be reimbursed by federal money that we're scheduled to receive?
It could, and let me give you, I'll give a quick update on that, but the short answer to that is no, and yes and no. Meaning that technically we could unrestrict a little over $1 million in actual COVID losses based on a formula provided by the federal government. It's not my intention to do that. Number one, the federal government's, their primary role and objective is water and sewer and infrastructure. We've kicked the can down the road a long time on water and sewer infrastructure. We've got some major issues to take care of, and I think if we spend the majority of those funds on water and sewer infrastructure, that we're going to be better off long term. We're talking the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Could we do that? The answer to that is yes, we could unrestrict it. That would not be my recommendation. Again, we have a pretty healthy fund balance, enough to be able to cover these things that do come up from time to time, so I don't see a need to do that. I'd much rather take those funds as much as we possibly can. Now, we want to leverage those funds too. And we can talk more about exactly the game plan. I think you might have I think I sent an email out, y'all probably have gotten it, as far as what my thoughts are on the game plan for those funds. We did receive our first tranche. I think we're getting $2.1 million roughly in federal funds. Again, those primary uses have to be water and sewer infrastructure. However, there are ways in there that we could unrestrict funds too, meaning we could put it back in the general fund and give raises to everybody if we wanted to do that. That's not a wise use of those funds. So that's where we're at currently. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, I couldn't remember any clarification on if that was.
It does not fall directly in the appropriate uses of those funds. However, once we unrestrict them, we can use those funds for whatever we want to. You can buy patrol cars at one-time expenses. The problem is that you're still negating the problem that we have with water and sewer issues, that we finally have an opportunity to be able to make a pretty big dent and keep us where we're in good shape for years to come. I don't know that we'll ever have that again. So we need to capitalize on that opportunity as much as we possibly can. All right, any other discussion on the first reading on a budget amendment to approve an additional $172,540? A motion on the floor by myself, second by Councilman Haygood. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? All right, I'm going to ask that we amend our agenda to also add in approval of awarding the contract to C.E. Bourne. So at this time, I move that we amend our agenda to add a new line item. We'll make this item number 8 to approve the award of the contract to C.E. Bourne. So I make that in the form of motion, we amend our agenda.
Second.
Have a second by Councilman Haygood. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. So, again, we had a very competitive bid process. On bid opening day, our conference room was slap full. I think we had 30 some odd contractors. When we finally got the bids, we had a grand total of 5 responsive bidders that fit out all their paperwork, had their bid bonds, had all the stuff that they needed to have, and we had one who did not turn in an alternate 1 nor alternate 2, which by the contractual agreement or by the specifications written would automatically disqualify him. So that company was disqualified. So we had 5 total responsive bidders, and C.E. Bourne and Company Incorporated comes recommended also by the building envelope specialist that does tons of school work in large government facilities. So I would move that we we award the contract to C.E. Bourne in the amount of $372,540. I'll make that form of a motion. $372,540 payable from the fund balance. Looking for a second.
Okay, sorry. Second.
A second by Councilman Haygood. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? And let the record reflect we have none opposed. All right. Item number 9, we have a resolution to approve PARD funding. As most of you know, our ball fields are in our athletic complex back behind Town Hall, needs some work. And I've committed to the community that we're going to work hard, and we've done so, but there's only so much funding that we have on our own. So I've talked with our local delegation, also talked with several of the other mayors in this area. The town of Williamston serves over 800 young women and young children that play in our youth recreation league. We believe, I think I speak on behalf of council, we believe that that's an important investment that we have. I had BJ's our athletic director. I had him run some statistics. Only 9% of those students actually live within the corporate limits of the town of Williamston. So the town of Williamston's residents subsidize via their tax dollars that program. But we believe strongly in that program, and we know that program helps to develop the whole child. And so we're excited to continue with that program and to build upon that program. But we're in desperate need of some dollars to be able to make some of these improvements happen, particularly with our ball fields. In February, I went and met with the school district. We had a 7-year lease, 7 years left on a 20-year lease with Anderson School District 1, who actually owns the ball fields, which only made us eligible for $7,000 in PARD fund grants. I met with the school district. The school district voted to extend that lease and give us pardon me just a second. Council Lady Austin.
Yes, sir.
All right, stand by just 1 minute. We're in item number 9, so I'll holler at you when we're ready.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so we approached the school board. The school board agreed to extend a brand new 20-year lease. So that allows us to ask for technically an unlimited amount of money from PARD. But we know what kind of funds they have, and we know that there's no way they can give us $100,000 if we wanted to. However, we are going to seek $25,000 this year from our local delegation to invest back in that recreation program, particularly with the fields. So I'm going to read this resolution in its entirety, and they have asked that we have a resolution by council in support of that request. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Williamston seeks to fund the athletic fields improvements by way of a Parks and Recreation Development Fund grant awards from the South Carolina Department of Parks and Recreation, and whereas the Town Council of the Town of Williamston is requesting from Anderson County Legislative Delegation a PARD grant award in the amount of $25,000 and no cents for the improvement of the Town of Williamston's athletic fields, and whereas the Anderson County Delegation requires a 20% commitment from local governments prior to the official award of PARD funds, and whereas the Town Council of the Town of Williamston, if awarded a 2021 PARD grant, awards for the improvement for the town's Williamston athletic fields, the Town of Williamston agrees and will commit to 20% funding match Now therefore be resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Williamston that the town formally requests a par grant totaling $25,000, and if awarded, the Town of Williamston agrees to commit the required matching funds of 20% in the amount of $5,000 and no cents. So, hearing that, and hearing the information that I've provided so far, I'll ask for a motion on the floor to approve that resolution to be submitted to the Anderson County delegation.
Mayor, I move that this resolution be approved and accepted.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Haygood.
Second?
I'll second.
I got a second. I got Councilman Cole first. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Council Lady Austin.
Yes, I'm for it.
Okay? All of it? All right, let the record reflect we have none opposed. And Council Lady Austin votes in favor of. All right, this time we will have, we'll go back to, that was our last item of new business. So we're going to circle back around to item number 1, 2, and 3. And Councilman Cole, if you will, give a reason for excusing yourself, and you may be excused.
Yes. Mayor, I do have for items 1, 2, and 3, a financial conflict of interest on the outcome of the votes on these matters. So I believe it's appropriate for me to recuse myself. And pursuant to state law, I did file a written statement at the last meeting and asked for that to be included in the agenda. So I believe I properly followed the applicable ethics provisions.
All right, thank you very much. What happens when you're the only real estate attorney in town? You get called on to make all these closings, and anytime Councilman Cole or his firm closes on a deal like that with either side of the property owner, he has to excuse himself. So with that said, we have we're going to circle back around to item number 1, is a second reading on an ordinance to rezone property on Brock Lane. And I'll read it in its entirety. The town owns let me get the right one, sorry. Whereas the town council has adopted the official zoning map of the town of Williamston, pursuant to recommendation of the planning commission in conformity with state law and procedures outlined in the code of ordinances, and whereas the planning commission has recommended that the zoning map be amended to rezone a certain parcel of property located off Brock Lane, bearing TMS number 245-00-08-006, currently owned by the town of Williamston, from multifamily residential MFR classification to a zoning classification of planned development PD. With that said, I'll entertain a motion on the floor, again, second reading, to rezone the property on Brock Lane that the town owns from MFR to PD.
So moved.
A motion on the floor by Councilman Haygood.
I'll second.
Have a second by Council Lady Austin. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll call, I'm sorry?
I have none.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Council Lady Austin.
Yes, I'm in favor.
All right, let the record reflect we have none opposed with Council Lady Austin voting in the affirmative. Item number 2, we have second reading of an ordinance to authorize the sale of property on 105 West 2nd Street. Whereas the town owns real property located at 105 West 2nd Street, lot number 102, Williamston, South Carolina, bearing TMS number 245-14-11-011-000. Whereas the town no longer has a public use for the said property, and the town council has determined that the sale of this property would be in the best interest of the citizens of the town. Now therefore it be ordained by the town council of the town of Williamston that the mayor is authorized to sell the real property, 105 West 2nd Street, lot 102, that the mayor may execute any deeds, contracts, deeds, or other documents necessary to effectuate the sale of the said property. That prior to the closing of the sale of either of these parcels, the town council shall approve the specific terms of said sale by resolution. With that said, the property is town-owned. It was donated to the town. The town had an old burned-out home removed from that property. It cost the town roughly $6,000 total in expenses to rehabilitate that lot and prepare it for sale. And now we have an offer from the developer for $10,000. So that's a good deal in my opinion. It's a fair market value for that parcel of property. And with that said, I would move, and I make that in the form of a motion, we approve that sale on 105 West 2nd Street at our earliest convenience.
I'd like to make a motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Council Lady Austin. We have a second by Councilman Haygood. Is there any discussion regarding that? Let me add too, that in the title search that came back, there was a couple of minor issues with some folks who are currently deceased. So there will be a couple of legal proceedings that need to take place to make that happen, and I just signed today an extension of that sale agreement till March of 2022. And the developer is perfectly okay with that, still wants to remain in that contractual agreement. So that's where we are currently. It won't happen quite as quickly as we expected it to due to those title search issues, but the attorneys are confident they can get those resolved in fairly straight order, and we don't expect it to take till March of 2022, but it could potentially, and we've signed an agreement to affect that. All right, any other discussion? Here none, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Favor.
All right, let the record reflect. Council Lady Austin in favor, and we have none opposed. And our last item of business, my goodness, what a talking tonight. We have second reading on an ordinance to authorize the sale of real property on Broad Street. Whereas the town owns real property located on Broad Street, tract number 3.77 acres in Williamston, South Carolina, bearing TMS number 245-14-13-021-000. Whereas the town no longer has a public use for said property, and the town council has determined that the sale of this property would be in the best interest of the citizens of the town. Now therefore it be ordained by the town council of the town of Williamston that the mayor is authorized to sell the real property known as Broad Street, tract 3.77 acres, Williamston, South Carolina, bearing TMS number 245-14-13-021-000 for the sum of $5,000. That the mayor may execute any contracts, deeds, or other documents necessary to effectuate the sale of said property, and that prior to closing the sale of either of these parcels, town council shall approve the specific terms of the said sale by resolution. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to authorize sale of that property on Broad Street. Have a motion on the floor by Council Lady Austin. Second by Councilman Haygood. Any discussion? Here none, let me add, this is a small triangle of land where Mount Vernon used to be. That's currently all about fabrics. It's almost directly across from Milliken Corporation. That was a parcel that was owned by Milliken Corporation at one time. And whenever the town acquired the Mahaffey and Brock projects, Brock property, that came along with it. And most folks didn't even know, including myself, that the town even owned that parcel of property. So it's not developable. I don't think it's developable. You couldn't put a home or anything like that on it. And the owner of All About Fabrics had mentioned that he would be interested in purchasing that property. And we came upon a price of $5,000. Keep in mind, the town has no use for it. The only thing we have to do is keep the grass cut on it. So that's one less parcel of property. We got to keep the grass cut on. So with that said, any other discussion? Here none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Council Lady Austin. Council Lady Austin? Okay.
Yes,
All right, let the record reflect. We have none opposed, and Council Lady Austin votes in favor. All right, this time Lee can come back in. I don't think we have anything else on our agenda tonight. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order? Council Lady Austin, I hope that you're having a good time wherever it is you're at, and we appreciate you phoning in, and I appreciate the other members of council coming in on this special called last-minute meeting, and we hope everybody has a good night. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. That was confusing. I think we had three people talking at the same time. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we got a motion on the floor by Councilman Cola, second by Council Lady Austin. All in favor? Council Lady Austin, you in favor?
yes.
All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.